Cell phone, please turn your cell phone to silence or turn it off. Ask everyone to observe a moment of silence. Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Okay. Ms. Domingo, please call the roll.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Reed.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Lawler.
Here.
Spicer.
Here.
Williamson. And Mayor Atchison.
Here. First item is approval of the agenda. We have one addition to the agenda. So the motion would be to add to the agenda under items for individual discussion, new item L, request approval to accept Albion Community Foundation grant number 2019-0117 to provide Albion Public Safety $1,000 designated for food boxes for Maple Grove seniors. May I have support for the motion?
Support.
Okay, any discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. Are there any other changes to the agenda? Councilwoman Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move agenda I to after B, please.
Okay. Is there a second for the motion?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Councilwoman Reed.
I've got some seniors that's going to be here tonight for the Holland Park game. And I is going to be long discussion. I'd like to get mine on done with before then. So could we hold on that?
Okay. So you have a reason to not support that. Is there any other discussion? Okay. So the motion that's been moved and seconded is to move item I, which is request approval for reconsideration of motion previously adopted, to where, what was the location you were requesting?
After item B.
After item B. Okay? So the motion has been to move that to make it new item C. Seeing no further discussion, Ms. Domingo, would you call the roll? So if you vote in the affirmative, if you vote aye, you're voting yes to change the agenda, the sequence on the agenda. If you vote no, that is to, the agenda will remain as is.
Councilmember Clark.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
Reed.
No.
Smith.
No.
Lawler.
Yes.
Spicer.
Yes.
And Mayor Atchison.
No. Okay, so with the exception of the addition of the vote to approve the grant, I move that we approve the agenda with that one addition. May I have support?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Okay, we did approve the motion to add one item to the agenda.
Right.
The request to change the sequence of the agenda did not pass, so now we're voting to approve the agenda as modified. May I have support?
Support.
Okay. All those, read the roll, please.
Councilmember Clark.
Yes.
Reed.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Lawler.
No.
Spicer.
Yes.
And Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Okay. Next item is presentations and recognitions. First under item A is open house at the Courtyard Marriott. We have anybody who wishes to make a presentation on that? Okay, well, I'll just make a quick comment on that, and at the Courtyard, at the open house at the Marriott Courtyard on December 6th, and it's open from the 4 to 6 p.m. They'll be serving refreshments and whatnot, and so they're inviting folks to come in, have some refreshments, and watch the parade. Okay. Next item is Shop Local Albion, and that's the second annual one that was on November 30th. Is there anybody here to give us a report on how well that went? I know there was a lot of foot traffic downtown, so we'll invite them to come back and tell us what the results of that were at a later time. Okay. Next item is public hearing on the fiscal year 2020 budget. So I will open the public hearing. What's the proper way to do that?
You just open the public hearing and see if there's a public comment on the public hearing, and then.
And that's before we have any kind of discussion, just, okay.
You'll-
Okay. All right. So this is the open hearing on the 2020 budget, which there is a package that's included that was distributed. If we have members of the public that wish to comment on that, please come forward, state your name and address. You have 3 minutes, and
I'll wait till it starts moving. Jay Loomis, 408 West Ash Street. I ask this every year it comes up, and I'm always curious about it, and I always forget what's your terminology for it. I know what I call this in my budget, and it's not proper decorum. So, you have a slush fund required by the state of Michigan. You're required to keep 15 to 18% of your budget in that slush fund. You have the 2020 budget in front of you. My question is, what is the current percentage of your slush fund for 2020?
okay. As you probably understand, I'll just advise everybody that we're not going to respond back directly. Is that the, okay. So we will address the questions. I'm making note of them. The question is, you called it a slush fund. We'll find out what the
don't know what it's
appropriate
called.
terminology is, and we'll give you an answer.
Thank you much.
Okay. Are there any other further comments, public comments on the 2020 budget? Okay.
Close the hearing.
I'm going to close the public hearing on the 2020 budget. We're now closed. Okay. So, we have nothing for closed session this evening. We have two,
Mr. Mayor, usually you see if council has comments on the
thank you.
budget.
Okay. So do council members have comments on the 2020 budget? Seeing none? Okay. So, consent calendar approval of study session minutes for November 16th.
Comments.
Sorry?
You missed public comments.
Oh, public hearing, then public. Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's getting confusing here. All right. Next item is public comments on the agenda items. Anyone wishing to come forward to make public comments, please identify yourself by name and address. Reminder, your comments need to pertain to the agenda item. No personal attacks or imputing people's motives or character, et cetera. And I would ask everybody present to respect the speakers. And you have 3 minutes. So if we have public comments on agenda items this evening.
Garrett Brown, 1016 South Superior Street. Two things. So one, I just noticed this earlier, there was, Councilmember Lawler requested to move item I forward. For those who voted against that, it's kind of troubling just because I know that Councilmember Lawler works on evening nights, and so that, normally that's been the courtesy that the council has offered to other members. So that's kind of unfortunate that common courtesy wasn't extended this evening for an item issue that she wanted to discuss earlier, so because she knew she'd be here. So I just wanted to make note of that I did notice that. The other thing I wanted to mention is regarding I'm a former mayor. I have been the target of lies and innuendo and those kinds of things. And my concern with the second part of that investigation really was to get to the bottom of, for the past maybe 2 years, who, and then most recently, who has been leaking information from City Hall to John Face and City Watch. I think that those sources are council members, including the mayor and Councilmember Williamson, And I also feel like that has been like a shadow character defamation thing, working with one of the previous former managers, Dr. Mitchell, to do that. And there are ways to get to the bottom of that. And I think that, you know, one of the things that I remember someone saying is that one of the oldest tricks in the book is to accuse someone of doing something that you are yourself doing. And I think that that's what's happened. There was a,
I'll caution you, Mr. Brown, do not impugn the character, do not make personal attacks by any member of the public, any city
Okay.
employee, or any member of this council.
Okay, so, but basically, I think that that's something that does need to be investigated, and I think it doesn't show transparency or a commitment to honesty and fairness not to get to the bottom of that. And so I think that voting against that or not allowing Councilmember Lawler to bring that further up in the agenda, it just doesn't look good because I think we can't play by one set of rules with certain people and then not by the same rules with other people. So, thank you.
Are there any other further public comments this evening?
Sonia Brown, 713 Orchard Drive. I basically echo everything former Mayor Brown said, from my feeling on Councilmember Lawler's request to move an agenda item up being denied. I think that is unprecedented and absurd. Agenda item I am the council person that made that motion on October 8th at that meeting. That motion is two parts. I was accused of harassment by Chief Kip. That claim was made in August. You held that claim for over 5 weeks. And I answered that claim. The harassment complaint was made public. My answer never was. I tried to follow policy and procedure and do the correct thing, although my feelings were that this harassment complaint was used as a political ploy, and I stated that October 8th. I think it's important, for the sake of justice and transparency, that you proceed with the investigation. My character has been assassinated, and I, again, deny all claims of harassment. The council unanimously voted to investigate the harassment claim and who's leaking the confidential information. Specifically in this case, the harassment claim submitted to you, Mayor, by Chief Kip. I think it would be a gross injustice not to carry on, get to the bottom of everything. The public deserves to know. I have been lied on. I want my name cleared. I want the truth to come out. And you have the power to do that by allowing the previous decision to stand and not trying to reconsider. So I urge you to do that. Also, I just quickly want to add how disappointed I am that you added the grant regarding Clark Street to the agenda tonight. Last minute.
It's not Clark Street, ma'am.
Okay, I apologize then. Okay, thank you. I know that's coming up, and I hope that you are transparent in letting Precinct 1 residents know that the potential funding to match that grant will come from 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and Wild Streets, which the prior council had approved for 2020 repair. Thank you.
Any other further public comments this evening? Okay. Next is the approval of the consent calendar. We have two items: approval study session minutes November 16th, 2019, and approval regular session minutes November 18th, 2019. So may I have a motion to approve the session minutes?
So moved.
Is there support to approve the minutes?
Support.
Okay. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the study session minutes for November 16, 2019, and regular session minutes November 18, 2019, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, those are approved. Okay, items for individual discussion. The first is the election of Mayor Pro Tem, and before we begin on that, I'll just ask a straightforward question. If there are any members of council who decline to be considered for that will not perform or serve in that function if elected by your colleagues. If anybody feels that they do not want to be considered for that, please make yourself known. Okay, so that's Councilwoman Clark, Councilwoman Reed, and Councilwoman Spicer, and Councilman Smith, and Councilwoman Lawler. Well, no one wants to be Mayor Pro Tem.
I would nominate Al Smith, though.
He's already declined to serve.
You can't nominate.
So having been advised that there's nobody here that wishes to serve, may I have a motion to nominate somebody? Councilwoman Clark.
So I would, did you decline?
I declined.
So I know Shane has spoken to me and told me that he is interested. So I would nominate Shane Williamson.
Is there a second?
Attorney Harkins, can we do that in his absence?
Yes,
We can, okay.
yes, I checked.
Okay.
I mean, hypothetically, if he doesn't want to do it, he could come in after he's elected and resign, but, yeah.
Thank you.
So it's been moved that Councilman Williamson is nominated to be elected as Mayor Pro Tem. Is there a second or support for that? Okay, there is no support for that. So we will table that. It would be my motion to table it. Unless any council member wishes to reconsider?
Nope.
Okay. All right, may I have a motion to table election of the Mayor Pro Tem?
So moved.
Support for tabling election of the Mayor Pro Tem.
Support.
Okay, so moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. This is to table. Aye.
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 Okay. That was 4. All those opposed?
I said I.
Okay. So it's 6-0 to table. All right. Next item, request approval of resolution 2019-37 to exempt the city of Albion from requirements of the Michigan Publicly Funded Health Insurance Contribution Act from January 1st, 2020 through December 31st, 2020. May I have a motion to approve resolution 2019-37?
So moved.
Second.
All right, moved in support. Any discussion, debate, dialogue? Councilwoman Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm trying to understand what is the Michigan Publicly Funded Health Insurance Contribution Act, and why would we want to exempt the city of Albion from people having insurance?
Okay. Do you wish to answer that? Or we can ask the city attorney to answer that if you prefer. Okay.
Either one, I mean, so, just so Councilman Lawler understands, so in, I think it was 2012, the state enacted the Publicly Funded Health Insurance Contribution Act, which basically set requirements on what municipalities had to contribute to their employees, to their portion of the health insurance benefits. You could elect to opt out or do things like that. The statutory requirements are an 80-20 split. And in this case, Albion actually pays more than 80-20. I believe we do a 90-10 split, is my understanding. And so in order to actually provide the employees with the higher benefits that we do, we exempt ourselves from the requirements of the act.
So, you said we're at a 90?
We're at a 90-10 split. instead of the 80-20 that we're
Are we
required.
trying to get to somewhere else? Are we trying to get to an 80-20 or
No.
we just
That
opting
would be,
out of this
if we
period?
went to 80-20, we'd be giving the employees less benefits.
So with this, it wouldn't be a 90-10,
Yes, with this, oh, you're talking about if we didn't opt out?
right?
Right, it would change how we provide health insurance to the employees. We've done this insurance opt-out every year since the law came into effect because we provide the higher health insurance benefits to the city employees.
And
But in
when,
order to do that, we have to opt out.
and the law went into effect approximately when?
2012.
Okay, so since 2012 until current, which is for the last 7 years, the city has opted out. By opting out, we provide greater health care insurance benefits to our employees. If we opt in, their benefits will be decreased.
The benefits would change. I mean,
Okay.
it would go to a different type of system than what we do now. I mean, this allows us to provide
Okay.
the 90-10 split.
Okay, any other questions by council?
Your Honor, if I could just clarify too, to opt out, it requires us to take annual action, and that's why it's on your agenda for tonight. This is something you have to do every year if you want to opt out.
Ms. Domingo, would you read the roll?
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes,
Spicer,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
and Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Okay. Discussion, approval, goals and objectives for our city manager. And there are copies. There is a copy contained within our packet. May I have a motion to approve the goals and objectives for the city manager as presented?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right, so we'll find those and we'll have a quick discussion. Okay. There's the version. I think it's in the last half of the packet. Okay. City Manager McCleary, do you want to give us an overview or walk us through that, please?
Sure. First, I want to note that what is presented to you tonight is the result not only of what we had discussed previously during the goal work session, but also as a result of submissions that I received from individual council members after that work session. Some of the items that were presented to me by individual council members were duplicates, so I tried to consolidate the best that I could. But for the most part, the goals and strategies are similar to what we had discussed. I do want to note for you that, and I will pass this out, but what I intend to do is every month I intend to provide a report to council on the extent to which I am achieving each of the strategies under each goal. It'll be a matrix that will show the percentage completed for each strategy, as well as a status summary for each one to explain to you exactly where I'm at, what's been accomplished, what still needs to be worked on for each strategy. And with that, I will give you copies, just to give an idea of what the matrix will look like.
Fantastic. Pass these around. Just one page?
Just the one. And that just shows goal number 1 and the strategies, but there will be one for
Right.
each one.
Thank you.
I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have on any of the goals or strategies that are out there.
I'm pretty sure the answer is going to be no, but I want to ask this. Is there anything contained within these goals and strategies with the dates that are identified here, or the timeframes that are identified here, that you have any particular serious concerns that it's too aggressive or it's questionable whether it's realistic?
Some council members had requested that some of the items be completed either sooner than I felt comfortable with, or put them out further, and I thought that I could complete those sooner. So I did change the dates a little bit for some of the items to better align with what I felt were realistic timetables for each one.
But as what we're looking at here is something you're comfortable with, and you believe this is challenging but achievable?
Yes.
Okay? So, any council member have questions on the goals and priorities as outlined here by our city manager? Any further comments or discussion? Okay. It's been moved and seconded to approve these. Ms. Domingo, would you read the roll, please?
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
and Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Okay. All right, next item, item D, request approval of resolution 2019-38 to approve the purchase of one police vehicle. May I have a motion?
So move.
Is there support?
Support.
Okay. It's been moved and supported to purchase a police vehicle, and I know we have a couple documents in that pertain to it. One is a memorandum by Chief Kipp, and the other, I believe, was put together by our city manager, and that's the one that I'm looking forward. Okay. Okay. Very near to the latter part of the package, and this is the council action summary sheet prepared by our city manager. Has everyone been able to find that? Okay. So the only question that, or unless there's other questions or comments by council. Okay. So on here, and I see that Chief Giff is standing by to eagerly answer all questions, but I have one question. So under the recommended motion, what is the city manager's recommendation?
My recommendation is that council approve authorizing us to proceed with ordering this vehicle. It will be purchased as part of the 2020 budget, but it's important to undertake the order of that vehicle now.
And we are applying for a loan, I'm sorry, I apologize, a grant, and if that's correct, but I thought there also was a grant that, not for this, okay. Thank you. All right, any other questions by council? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the purchase in the 2020 budget. Ms. Domingo, would you read the roll?
Councilmember Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
and Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Okay, and I just said purchase again, but as Chief Gipp corrected me, this is a lease. Okay. Okay, next is request approval of medical marijuana grower renewal license for Greenwell Biomedicinals. This is the first year renewal, so the license was issued a year ago, and this is to renew that. And it has been reviewed and approved by the Planning Commission. And the next stop is for the City Council. May I have a motion to approve the renewal of the medical marijuana license for Greenwell Biomedicinals?
Can I ask a question? Is this one of the ones that came before the planning commission?
Yes, this is the one that the Planning Commission approved. Okay,
So moved.
okay, it's been moved. Is there support?
Support.
I apologize, did somebody?
Support.
Thank you. Okay, it's been moved and supported. Is there discussion? Councilman Smith.
My only question is, how many years will companies be allowed to renew the licenses without any action being taken on their behalf as far as putting up a facility and starting into the production that they are saying they're going to do? I mean, are they just holding a place with the license, or are they actually going to start production?
So I can tell you, our ordinance actually doesn't speak to having to be open within a certain time period. I think the reason we didn't put that in is because to a certain extent, these facilities not only go through our licensing process, but then they also go through a licensing process with the state. And so to a certain extent, we can't control when or if they get approved at the state level. In the interim, when they renew their licenses with the city's garnering their $5,000 application fee. And so, to the best of my knowledge, I can't remember if it's, the city's bringing in 60 or 70,000-ish a year on these licenses, regardless of them not being open. But I can tell you, our ordinance doesn't speak to a time period.
Okay, I think I see Mr. Tracy in the back. I'm going to do the best I can, John, to recall the specifics from the Planning Commission. Probably not going to get it quite right, so if you could come forward and be prepared to answer questions or clarify whatever I say that's not right. Okay. So at the last Planning Commission meeting, there were two organizations that had license renewals that came before the Planning Commission. In neither one of those any construction had taken place. In the first organizations, and I don't recall the name of the organization, basically the explanation that was given was there were issues with their financing. They've now got it all straightened out, and now they're prepared to move forward. But the representative that was present from that organization wasn't prepared to answer the multitude of questions he was asked, and so the Planning Commission tabled that until they could come back and present more information.
That's not this one.
That's not this one. No, that was a separate one. The second one was this, Bidwell, I believe it is? Okay, Greenwell Biomedicals. They came forward and the same question was asked. It's been a year, no construction has happened, and I'll summarize their answer and you correct what I get wrong. Essentially, there is a series of approvals that have to happen, and the last approval 3 or 4 months ago, and so that was the explanation as to they've been waiting for the licenses and whatnot to go through the process, and there were some amount of time that it took to get there. What else can you add to that?
That's primarily, that is correct. Okay. Basically, between the state licensing, which has taken a period of time for medical marijuana licenses, and then, of course, site plan review, which they had to go through for the site, since this is going to be a brand new facility. There was also a site plan that they had to go through with EDC, and with the time that elapsed into September, and then you come up to October, the renewal of licenses. So they had not broken ground as of yet, primarily because of what they had to go through to get to where they're at now. So not to say that any of it was, that I would say was on their part. It was primarily the process.
They were asked point blank, are you ready to start? Will you have construction within the next 12 months? And the answer was yes, they have their funding. They will have construction beginning in the next 12 months.
And there is a gentleman here from the company if council wants to speak with him.
Cesar.
The only thing I wanted to add to council is that I'm sure you probably know this by now, just as a reminder, all these need to be turned back in. These aren't free to keep, the applications, because the information in them is confidential.
So, did that answer your question? Do you have further questions? Okay, all right. Okay. Any other questions by council? Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the license renewal. Ms. Domingo, would you read the roll?
Councilmember Spicer,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
and Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Okay. All right, next item is to set a study session date to discuss the Sidewalk Fund. Does anyone from council want to make a recommendation on a study date? Okay.
Can we get that done before the end of the year?
We just need to pick a date. Do you,
Since the city manager got the busiest thing going down here, what date would be good for you?
For me,
Yeah.
I'm open to whatever the council, whatever dates you as a council are available.
Councilwoman Spicer?
Are we looking to have a session prior to a regular council meeting or set a separate session for a weekday? Are we looking to do it on a Saturday? I guess, what are the thoughts?
The answer to that, I would be whatever the general consensus of council is. It is something that we need to have a discussion on, and come to grips of how we're going to expend the sidewalk money, how it's going to be prioritized. Do we need to return some of it? If so, how? Those sorts of questions. So it's fairly important, as all city businesses. Councilwoman Spicer?
City Manager Darwin, do you anticipate the discussion to take more than 1 hour, or?
I do not anticipate it taking much more than an hour. I think if you were to allocate an hour, we could probably get through that discussion.
Okay. Well, the thought that occurs to me is we have a regular council meeting scheduled for Monday the 16th to commence at 7 p.m. If we start at 6, an hour early, and we'll deal with the Sidewalk Fund. Anybody from council have any issues with that? Okay, so the motion, I'll make a motion and somebody can choose to support if they wish. I move that we have a study session on Monday, the 16th of December at 6 p.m. to discuss the expenditure of the Sidewalk Fund, how we're going to expend it, what are we going to spend it on, et cetera. Is there support?
Support.
Okay. Further discussion? Councilwoman Clark.
Just letting council know that I won't be available for that session. Just letting you all guys know.
Okay. Councilwoman Spicer.
Well, we didn't approve that yet, did we?
No.
Okay, because I know that Councilman Williamson has a difficult time getting here at 6. He barely slides in the door like me.
Except now he no longer works in Chelsea, so
Oh, well.
he doesn't have an issue.
All right, that sounds good.
Okay.
I didn't realize that.
All right, so it's been moved and seconded that we have a study session, or we'll start the regular council meeting at 6 p.m. on Monday, the 16th of December. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Okay.
Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you. Can we get a reminder regarding the date? I left my phone at home,
Yeah,
so I
absolutely.
can't make a note of it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Would you send that? Thank you. All right. Okay, next item, item G, request approvals and boards and commissions. There are 5, and they are as follows. Ms. Christina Wixon, initial appointment to the Downtown Development Authority, term to expire 12/31/2022. Mr. Eric Lang, or Rick Lang, reappointment to the Albion Trust, term to expire 11/7/2022. Mr. Joseph Rebecki, initial appointment to the Planning Commission, term to expire 12/31/2022. Mr. Richard Lewin, initial appointment to the Board of Review as an alternate, term to expire 12/31/2021. I will note that he has been and currently is finishing his term as a primary, and so he's been on the board, but this is appointing him as an alternate, and then appointing Ms. Vivian Davis, initial appointment, Board of Review, term to expire 12/31/2021, which is the position that Mr. Lewin will be vacating. Any questions on those? First, may I have a motion to approve these 5 appointments?
So moved.
Is there support?
Support.
Okay, thank you. The only comment I wanted to make, because one individual folks may not be that familiar with, that's the Christina Wixon. She just opened a small business, health food, smoothies, and and Ts and whatnot on Superior Street, so. Okay, it's been moved and supported to approve these appointments, all 5. Those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, they are approved. Huh? Next item, item H, request approval for Holland Park Sidewalk Improvement Project. Okay. May I have a motion to approve the Holland Park Sidewalk Improvement Project?
So moved.
Okay, is there support?
Support.
Okay,
Just for clarification, what the council would be approving tonight is authorizing administration to prepare specifications and to go out for bid on this project. Those bids would then come back to you for further discussion.
Councilwoman Lawler?
Thank you, Mayor. So this is not for the water system?
No, this is to bid out the replacement of the sidewalks around the perimeter of Holland Park.
Councilwoman Spicer?
So this would be to bid to basically replace what's there. Would we be adding sidewalks, additional sidewalks to Holland Park anywhere on the inside or just?
This is around the perimeter, but there are no sidewalks. There's no sidewalk currently along Cass, I believe, and that was part of the concern that Councilor Reed had, and I'll.
So would we be adding?
That over to her.
Would we be adding a sidewalk there?
Yes,
On Cass?
yes.
Okay.
Councilwoman Reed?
We will be adding a sidewalk coming down Cass from Dalrymple to Albion, that part there. And then also at the bottom, we would be adding one. And then we would be widening the one coming down Dalrymple. And the reason why we're doing this, and some of the people, that's why I wanted to get the ones from the senior center that was coming tonight, that had something to say, because the seniors have asked that, and I must say, I'm very happy that they have donated money to the park to help us place things there. But they have asked for a walking area there because it's right across the street from the senior center. And there they get the opportunity to go outside and walk and get exercise rather than use the machines inside. But there's trees and things that have broke up the sidewalk, so until it's gonna have to be worked around so that they can. All right, you got the other walk that's going, and Mr., my friend here is going to tell us more, that goes out through the wooded part going down towards where Brown's well used to be. And they don't want to walk that because it's not, oh, you can't always see what's ahead. Because as you're going, you've got all of this brush and stuff going on up on the side. You don't know who's out there or what's out there. And so therefore, they have asked, to have something done that will make them feel safe. And the way the walkway is now, it's not safe because it's broke. It's got levels that go up and down, and if Dale can speak.
Okay. Councilwoman Lawler has a question or a comment.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I ask us to table this until we have the discussion of the sidewalk fund? Because if we're talking about sidewalks for Holland Park, then I think we should have that discussion when we talk about the sidewalk fund.
So the question I was waiting to ask is, the funding for this, is this coming from the grants that have been submitted to support Holland Park development, or this is coming out of some other source of funding?
My understanding is it would be coming from the sidewalk fund.
Okay. So, all right. So I absolutely understand your question. So there's been a motion to table this until after the sidewalk fund discussion on Monday, December 16th. Is there support for tabling this?
Support.
Okay. I would ask the council to, because we have a gentleman here this evening who's come and spent time waiting, if council would be willing to allow him to come up and provide his comments and his insight and his input.
Do we have to finish the vote, or can we let him speak?
We're going to vote, but I've asked if we can have this gentleman speak.
Yes, good evening. My name is Dale Duff, and we've only known each other for over 40 years. And I'm the president of the Fork Senior Center. And this project that Lynn has been working on would greatly benefit the senior center or anybody in that area. It would give us an outside perimeter walk around Holland Park. Our seniors like to go over there, but the problem they have, even if the grass is cut properly like it is, seniors have a tendency not to pick up their feet, and they might trip in the grass. But with some new sidewalk, and the sidewalk that she's talking about that's been damaged by the roots of the trees, if that were all to be leveled out, that would be very nice. Because the seniors, many of them, they don't feel comfortable walking around the river walk. But they would feel very comfortable over there. I've heard a lot of people say a lot of things about it. And that would be a wonderful thing to do. And thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so the motion before us is to table further discussion and vote on this until after Monday, 16 December's discussion on the Sidewalk Fund. All those in favor of tabling this, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we will table this. Okay. Okay, next item, item I, request approval for reconsideration of the motion previously adopted on October 8th, 2019 regarding approval of third-party law firm to investigate alleged conduct by Councilmember Brown and who leaked complaint to City Watch News Group. Okay, may I have a motion?
So move.
Okay, is there support? Okay, discussion. I'll start out by asking City Manager McCleary, who asked to have this put on here.
Your Honor, on October 8th, the City Council adopted a motion to approve a third-party law firm selected by the City Manager and City Attorney in an amount not to exceed $10,000 unless approved by Council to verify whether alleged conduct by Councilmember Brown occurred and an investigation into who leaked the complaint submitted to the mayor to individuals linked to City Watch News without a FOIA request by a suitable third-party law firm investigator made at my recommendation. Subsequently, the complaint that gave rise to this authorization was withdrawn by the individual who made the complaint. Therefore, I've requested further direction from the City Council as to whether the City Council desires for administration to proceed with the investigation and incur the legal expense, or if the Council wishes to rescind or amend the motion previously adopted. I can only tell you that the employee who made the complaint in the first place has withdrawn that complaint, so that part of the investigation will no longer go forward. I can't see the justification to incur that expense, but I'm asking for further clarification and direction from the City Council.
Thank you. Questions or comments by council? Councilwoman Spicer.
Thank you. So then, City Manager McCleary, so the investigation into the alleged conduct by Councilmember Brown is no longer an allegation. That's been withdrawn. Is that what you're saying?
The complaint has been withdrawn.
So then the leaked information to the City Watch News Group, that is what you're asking us if we want you to pursue?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, well, point of clarification, what the council voted on was essentially two investigations. One was to investigate the conduct. that was identified in a complaint, and the other was to investigate the source of the leak or the information, how it was passed to City Watch. That's what was approved by council. So I understand the logic and the recommendation from the city manager that since the complaint has been withdrawn as a result of the election or whatever, that it may not be in the city's best interest or desires to expend any money to go look at that. And so I believe his recommendation is at a minimum not to expend any money, time, or effort in investigating the alleged conduct.
If I could just expound on that. The reason for the confusion is because it was all put into one motion. Even though it was an amended motion, the motion that was adopted had 2 investigations authorized within it. I wanted to come back to council, number one, to make clear, so that there was a clear understanding by council that the investigation, as far as the complaint that was made against Councilor Brown, that investigation will not go forward because that complaint was withdrawn. There's no reason to move forward with that investigation. But because the two investigations were included in one motion, one authorization, I wanted further clarification from, or direction from council as to how you want me to proceed.
Any other questions, or Councilwoman Clark?
So normally, when anything is withdrawn, somebody, okay, so I understand what's going on with the one, because the person decided that they no longer wanted to pursue that. But the second one has not, the second party involved hasn't come forward and said that they wanted to drop anything, correct?
That is correct.
Any other comments or questions? Councilman Smith.
I'd like to see if Attorney Harkness has any bearing on this, any thoughts?
Well, my office wasn't involved in the process because of a conflict of interest with, at the time, Councilwoman Brown. As far as the current motion, I mean, council can basically do whatever it wants in terms of whether you decide to take no action and the investigation proceeds. But as Mr. McCleary indicated, you have now one investigation that is moot, and the other one, you've authorized an expenditure up to $10,000 to investigate half of what you previously authorized. The other option is you can modify the action that you previously directed, the previous council directed. So there's a lot of different things you can do. It's really what council sees in the best interest of the city.
Thank you.
Okay. So, Councilwoman Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. So the complaint that was written, you're saying that that person withdrew their complaint, right?
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
So it just seems kind of funny to me that we approved this and now it doesn't have to move forward, but my position is that I'm just going to previously stand on this motion that was adopted October 8th, 2019, because I really think that it's for lack of better words, a big mess on this agenda item. And if someone could come in and straighten this all out so that people can, the person that made this complaint can have their name cleared and the person that was accused can have their name cleared. So I am going to just make a motion. Well, I don't know if I can make a motion, but I want to stand on having this investigation done.
Okay. So the motion before is reconsideration of this, and what I believe that you're saying is that you're not in favor of reconsidering and changing the previously approved motion.
That's correct.
Okay, any other comments by council? Councilwoman Clark.
I echo what Councilman Lawler is saying. We previously voted on this. I understand that the other party decided to withdraw, but the other allegations or concerns are still present. So if it was me, I would feel the same way. If something is brought up and my name is on the line, or and there's some things that's being said or being leaked out of council, as it was stated, I feel like that needs to stop. You can't have a cohesive group if you've got people doing things that are totally out of conduct and out of order.
Any other comments by council? Okay, so the motion is for reconsideration of the resolution, of the motion previously adopted on October 8th, which is regarding a third-party law firm and $10,000 not to exceed. Okay. So if we vote in the affirmative, then we would change that. If we vote negative, is to let it stand as was previously approved. City Attorney.
Just to clarify, because what I want to make sure you understand what the manager said. The manager said that the first part of the investigation isn't going to occur because it's now moot. What you're voting on is whether the second part continues.
Okay. So that brings up a good question. If the city council says, city manager, city attorney, go do A, and we have a unanimous vote by council directing that you go do A, does the city manager and or the city attorney have the authority to say, well, that was a good idea, things have changed, I'm not going to do that, I'm going to do something different?
Well, I guess hypothetically, you can direct the city manager to continue doing what you're doing, but the complaint that was made doesn't exist anymore.
True, but the alleged conduct, the determination whether the alleged conduct took place or not.
Right, so you have to, yeah, I guess you as a council have to decide now that a complaint that was made has been withdrawn, whether you want to expend money to investigate a complaint that's no longer being made. That's up to you as a council.
Okay.
Well,
Councilwoman Spicer.
thank you. I don't see it that way. I see it as that the city manager does not have to investigate the complaint if we voted to continue. I see it as that's something he doesn't have to do. What he has to do is do the other part. Am I mistaken?
Yeah, so what he has said is that the first part of the complaint, given that, or it's, I say the first part, it's just it was a one vote on a bifurcated issue, and the first part has now been withdrawn. The complaint no longer exists. So what you're voting on tonight is to continue the second part of what council approved, which is the investigation into how that information was released. So that's what you're. And the manager can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's what he was articulating.
Yes.
And that's what I just stated. Okay, thank you, Attorney Harkins.
Okay,
So I guess
Councilwoman
So
Clark.
I guess I'm confused why you're saying that it no longer exists. One portion of it is gone, yes, but the second part of it,
As I said, the first part was withdrawn, so there is no longer a complaint being lodged by an employee.
okay.
But the motion was to investigate and determine whether or not the conduct occurred. That's what the motion was, that's what was passed and approved by council. Go determine whether the conduct that's alleged by the city employee occurred or not. So I agree, the employee's complaint has been withdrawn, but what was approved was to investigate whether the conduct as alleged occurred and investigate into who leaked the complaint submitted to the mayor. Okay, so that was two parts. I voted against having this bifurcated. It should have been two separate motions, but it wasn't, or two separate items to vote on, but it wasn't. So, as written on the agenda, and if somebody wants to make a motion to amend, it is to, let me find the agenda so I get it right. Here it is. Okay? Request approval for reconsideration of the motion previously adopted. So the motion to adopt included two investigations, or two aspects of an investigation. And the city manager has put it on here for us to reconsider that motion. Okay? So that's my interpretation. Councilwoman Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. Am I allowed to ask why the complaint was withdrawn?
The complaint that was filed was, was a personnel matter. I wouldn't discuss that in this forum anyway, but I, other than to tell you that no reason was given for the withdrawal of the complaint.
Thank you.
Okay, so the motion before us is to reconsider the motion previously adopted. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Ms. Domingo, please read the roll.
Councilmember Reed,
No.
Smith,
No.
Lawler,
No.
Spicer,
No.
Clark,
Yes.
and Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Okay, so that fails.
So we don't reconsider it. So what
Sorry?
does it-
So
what
it
does that
is,
mean? So we don't reconsider it,
That's correct.
right, because we voted no. So it still stands, the investigation.
That's correct.
Okay. Oh, you voted wrong.
Okay.
You voted
Okay. Okay. Ms. Clark, we've taken no action following that vote. Do you wish to change your vote? And is that
Yes.
permissible under parliamentary procedure?
yes.
I just believe what I heard Ms. Clark say was that, oh, I misunderstood.
I misunderstood. I did. Y'all want to change it to no. Thank
Okay.
you.
Okay.
So what was the vote?
So the next thing
Sorry?
is, what was the vote?
The vote was 5-1. Okay? To reconsider, or not to reconsider. So both aspects of the investigation need to go forward. Okay. Next item, approval to apply for Albion Community Foundation grant. And I apologize, that's not that. It's the approval to apply for the AFG grant for the Albion Department of Public Safety air packs. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Okay. All right. Is Chief Kipp here to give us an overview, unless you wish to do that, City Manager?
I would prefer that the chief gave.
And here he comes. Here's Jotno.
So the Assistance to Firefighters grant is a grant that we've applied for in the past. In 2013, I believe it was, is how we got the ladder truck that we purchased. It was $1 million grant. We had to pay $50,000 of that. In 2002, we also received that grant in which we purchased our lead engine that we have now, along with the air packs that we currently have. So those were all purchased in 2002. We're requesting again to put in for this grant. This is going to be a grant that we're putting in with Sheridan Township and Albion Township combined, so we can all have the exact same air packs. This would provide us with 20 new air packs and 40 new bottles, along with the masks that go with them.
And what's the matching funds?
5% normally.
All right. All right, it's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions for Chief Kipp? Any questions or comments by council? And, okay, thank you. All right. Would you please read the roll?
Councilmember Smith,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
and Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Okay, next item, request approval to apply for AFG grant for a new fire engine and radios. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Support?
Support.
Okay, Chief Kip.
So this is the same grant, but we're doing this as an individual agency, so we're applying for it just for Albion City for this. The new radios will replace our radios that I think we purchased in 2006. I believe they came through the same grant process. They are Motorola radios. The current ones we have, again, are 13 years old. Motorola is no longer supporting service on them, or I shouldn't say that. They're still supporting service, but they're not making new parts for them. And so as the parts run out, we won't be able to replace them. The new radios run approximately $8,000. They will be VHF and 800 megahertz radios, so that we'll be able to communicate on both frequencies that we use with one radio instead of carrying two radios that we carry right now. Our current VHF radios are old used military radios that we've been able to get through the surplus program with the military and are working well for us, but it would be nice to have new radios with just one radio to carry for both. Again, as I said, our lead engine was purchased in 2002, so it's getting close to being 18 years old. And a regular life for a fire truck is about 30 years. Our backup engine is a 1989, so it is 30 years old. We're requesting that grant money to replace that 1989 engine with a new engine, which will become our lead engine, and then our lead engine now will go to our backup engine.
So we don't keep, oh,
Okay.
Any questions by council?
You have room,
Councilman Smith.
you have room to store both engines?
This engine hopefully will be a little bit shorter than our lead engine now, so we'll still have room in there. The 1989 then we can put up for sale. I don't know what we'd get for it at this point, but usually they run somewhere between $20,000 and $40,000. It might even cover our costs on matching in the grant. So.
Mr. Domingo, would you read the roll?
Councilmember Lawler,
Yes.
Spicer,
yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
and Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Okay. Thanks, Chief. Okay. All right, future agenda items. Oh, shoot, yeah, right, it's right there. I can't even read my own writing. Okay, next item, item L, request approval to accept Albion Community Fund Foundation grant of $1,000 for Albion Public Safety for food baskets for seniors at Maple Grove Housing. Have a motion.
So moved.
Support?
Support.
Any discussion? Okay.
I can give a little more on this if you'd like. I don't know a whole lot about it, but our community policing officer, Kelly Williamson, has been working on this program to provide these baskets to the Maple Grove residents. We've been collecting items in our lobby, and I know they're collecting items other places through the AmeriCorps Vistas that were helping us, Cressy Vargo in particular. And so Kelly and Cressy both went together and wrote this grant to the Community Foundation to receive this money in order to get additional funds, and that funds were awarded to us. So we're just looking to get approval for accepting that $1,000 so we can put it towards these funds.
Okay. And there are no matching funds required. Okay. Would you read the roll, please?
Councilmember Spicer,
Yes.
Clark,
Yes.
Reed,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Lawler,
Yes.
and Mayor Atchison.
Yes. Okay. Future agenda items. Okay. Council have future agenda items they wish to be added to December 16th? Councilman Clark?
You'll be bringing you'll have already met about the sidewalks, right? So you.
We're gonna put that on the agenda for the 16th.
Okay.
And I don't know that there's any good reason to have two separate meetings. We'll just start at 6 PM and discuss the sidewalks in between now and then, figure out if there's something we need to vote on.
Okay.
And we'll have the agenda reflect that. Is that acceptable?
You mean you're setting it as a study session at 6 and then the meeting at 7?
Yes.
Except I'm not sure there's a good necessity to do that. We could just add it to the agenda and start the meeting at 6, discuss it, and if there's something we need to vote on, we can vote on.
I don't know, well, you've set by resolution your council dates and times, so I don't think you can technically modify your start date, or start time of your regular meeting, I think you'd have to set it as a study session or
And
whatever.
if we make a public announcement 4 days in advance or something, we can't change the start time of a meeting? We've done that many times.
Oh, it's an approval though, of a set.
Okay.
Yeah. My suggestion would be to set it as a study session and have your regular meeting at 7, but.
Okay. Councilman Spicer.
I was under the impression we were gonna have it as a study session at 6, so.
Yeah, between now and then, I gotta figure out if there's something that we actually need to have a vote on, and then we'll either put it on as an item that we can vote, or leave it as just discussion, so.
Just for clarification though, because the Holland Park sidewalk project is affected by that discussion, I do intend that we will put the Holland Park sidewalk improvement project on your regular meeting agenda, 7 o'clock.
Okay. Okay, so for clarification, to take away all the confusion that I have generated, we will have a study session at 6, followed by our regular meeting at 7, one item of which will be the Holland Park sidewalk. Okay. All right. City Attorney.
I'm sure this is already on your radar and probably the manager's radar, but just to avoid any mishaps, the approval of the budget needs to be on for the next meeting.
Yes. Okay. Any councilmen have other items they want on the agenda? Okay, so we had a couple of city ordinances that you were working on, I believe so. One was for the second reading of the revision to the ethics ordinance. That's already happened? Okay, so that's been approved. And then there was, and then it may be too early to have any further discussion?
You're talking about like the
Arts Commission, Parks and Trails Commission?
I will have one or more of those for
Okay.
you for the next meeting for
Okay.
first reading, discussion / first reading.
Okay.
I will get with the manager on that, but I will have at least one of those for you for the next meeting.
Okay.
Yep.
And hopefully there will be more appointments and reappointments to boards and commissions. Councilwoman Spicer, you had one thing? Sound like you had something you wanted to.
I did, but I've forgotten, so.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Let me see, what was I gonna say? Oh,
Councilwoman Spicer.
takes me a minute, I'm getting older here. But I wanted to ask the city manager, would we be ready to give an update on the rental certification at the December 16th meeting, or do you anticipate after the first of the year?
It is possible that we could present something at the December 16th meeting. I don't want to make any promises, but we are going to have one more committee meeting to wrap up our work, and so it is very possible.
In light of the fact that Councilwoman Clark, who has background expertise and is passionate about rental certification, and who will not be here on the 16th of December, she's already advised us of that, would it be acceptable to push that into January?
Sure.
Thank you. All right. Next is public, public comments. Persons addressing city council shall limit their comments, to no more than 3 minutes. If you have public comments, please come forward, state your name and address.
Again, Garrett Brown, 1016 South Superior Street, Albion, Michigan. Two things. Seeking clarification regarding the Sidewalk Fund, because to my knowledge, there was an assessment. This was kind of a controversy that happened when I was on council. There was a sidewalk fund, and the revenue from that came from a sidewalk assessment, that there were some concerns about the way in which that was created and whether it was appropriately created. So to my knowledge, I don't know if there's any money in that fund right now. So that's something that council hopefully can look at, but I don't know if there's any money in that fund. And then the second thing is I just wanted to thank council for approving or not reconsidering because one of the things that I've experienced personally is like, there's one, City Watch lies. One of the things that they said was that, Latanya Rufus is my cousin. That's not true. But I have legal recourse for defamation lawsuits, things like that, to help deal with that. But I do think that when things come from inside City Hall, that's problematic, because even one of the things that and you can FOIA it, even with the recall that happened, Mr. Nelson, who was the primary recall for the one that passed, he submitted that language, but there was also recall language submitted on January 23rd, the same day that Ms. Rufus was put on leave, based on it was the exact same language by the person who took the council precinct 3 seat. So the question becomes, how does someone become aware of the messages that were the source of the recall on the day that the former city manager was put on leave, and go to the county election office to file a recall on that? How does that happen in terms of leaks? So I think that's something that hopefully the investigation can get to the bottom of, is how Mr. Smith became aware and in possession of that information and submitted a recall and then pulled it out. Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Thank you, Mayor. Wayne Arnold, 906 Hall Street. First of all, I'd like to say, obviously, I'm a senior citizen. I'm also a member of the Fork Center. I'm also a member of the 64% of senior citizens that live in the city of Albion. I'm also a member of the 60-some% that pay property taxes here at Albion. And I'm rather alarmed that we don't have any more money left in that fund, because I was going to suggest that we take that money and we build these sidewalks. We need these sidewalks. Senior citizens need somewhere to walk. I mean, absolutely. Let's get it done. Whatever it takes, let's get the sidewalks for the senior citizens. I thought we had money left in that fund. Somebody find out where it's at, and let's give it to let's get these sidewalks built for the senior citizens. We don't get our just dues in this town. We pay the majority of the taxes. We own the majority of the properties. Nobody. In the last 4 years, I hadn't heard nobody speak up for senior citizens. Occasionally, Ms. Reed will bring up some issues that's pertinent for senior citizens. The parks definitely is pertinent. Sidewalks, absolutely. And the Fork Center, that's a necessity for us. Whatever needs to be done for the senior citizens, let's get it done. And point blank and restore it. Thank you.
Serena Smith, 903 Burr Oak. A couple of things. I live on 903 Burr Oak, where Guardian knocked down their houses. They just pull the cords on our side of the street. So I talked to Marcola Lawler, 4th Precinct, about it. And so seeing if somebody can come, and it's not just my house, it's like a row full of cords that's just down. So that's one thing. And then we're talking about the sidewalks, but it's a bridge on Albion Street that we all can just die on. You see the wires. It's really scary to cross that bridge. So I was talking to the man, who was he? He left, but he said it wasn't so much a city problem. He said it was a state. Yeah. So how do we go about trying to get that bridge fixed before somebody fall on in that water? Third thing is, I see a lot of kids going to school, and we don't have street lights. So they have their little flashlights. And so trying to see if we can get some more lights for the kids can feel safe. That's it.
Again, Sonia Brown, 703 Orchard Drive. Just want to piggyback off what Ms. Wingfield mentioned about the children walking and no streetlights. I know at one point we had discussed possibly looking into bus shelters for the children, so I hope that's something that you all can explore and continue to discuss. I also want to thank those of you on council that voted to not reconsider the investigation that was approved on October 8th. I am looking forward to the truth being made known and coming out. So I thank you all that voted in that way. I also would like to remind council that you're under a timeline to choose a mayor pro tem. Attorney Harkness is more familiar with the, I want to say 30 days maybe, but it's longer.
Less than that.
Oh, well, you're under a time crunch or you go to jail, so thank you.
Any other public comments this evening?
Douglas Jones, 201 South Berrien Street. I'm also a retired city employee of 30 years, well, 29 and quite a few months. Mr. McClary and me's had a little conversation today, but I just want to let you know that I don't do very good under these kind of pressures right here. I had an incident happen. Me and Mr. McClary hopefully will get it resolved. But I just want to let you know that we do have an issue, and I do hope the city of Albion holds their employees responsible for their actions. I have noticed in the last 5 years that I have retired that our services have greatly gone downhill. Did you know 30 years ago, people used to brag about how we kept our streets in this town, especially during the winter. At the college kids that came from New York and stuff would give us praise. How did you take care of 6 inches of snow in 4 hours? And we did knock down people's trash cans, and we didn't just literally fill up their driveways just because we could. That's right. And stuff like that. You know, we had a lot of pride in ourselves back then. And I don't know what's happened to us, but I hopefully you guys and everybody can just make the right decisions and be honest about everything. And me and Mr. McClary could come to agreement that what my issue will be resolved, and I won't be back in front of you again. Thank you very much.
Are there any further public comments this evening?
I'm Maddie Washington. My address is 1211 South Eden Street in Albion. I wasn't born and raised in Albion, but I've been here for well over 40 years. My husband brought me here 50 years ago. But didn't go to school here, wasn't born here. But coming here, I've always admired Albion. Of course, you take a vacation and you always look forward to coming back. There's only two things I wanted to say. And this will be probably my second city council ever attending, but I am in the community. We do own our home. My husband passed away, but so we do own our home. We do pay our taxes. Two things that I would like to see in the city of Albion, and that is accountability and transparency. I don't like hearing under the covers of who said what and how and when. I'd like to know what's going on. I'd like to hear from the council. If it's things that council has to talk in behind closed doors, I understand that. But I don't like the animosity, and I think that we should come together as a community, as this gentleman said, and be proud of where we are, who we associate with, how we stand behind our laws, how we enforce our laws. Consider everybody in this community, the younger people, definitely me senior citizens, the single, everybody. That's what it's all about. Albion is for everybody. We got an issue, we should be able to talk to our city council about it. We should be able to have some feedback. And if our city council person doesn't talk to whomever the mayor is or whoever is in charge of that, we as a community need to know. I think if more of that is shown, more people would have input on what their feelings and how they feel about Albion. I love Albion. I love the people. I love being here. I just don't like the animosity and I don't like the unaccountability of things that's said behind closed doors. Let's be together. Let's be together and let's talk to each other. Let's get down to what really is going on and decide how we really move forward. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Are there any further public comments this evening?
I did. I finally showed up. All right, Mr. Mayor, council members, City Manager McCleary, Clerk Domingo, residents of the City of Albion, and folks watching this evening, good evening. Gary Tompkins, your County Commissioner. It's always great to be with you folks each and every opportunity that I do definitely get. First and foremost, let me start out with saying something positive, which is hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving with their families. So I know I certainly did. As we talk about roads and bridges every time that we talk, I didn't have to talk about that for actually a day, so that was a good thing. So first of all, we'll start out with just a couple of things. This Thursday night, the County Commissioners will be voting on our 2020 budget, as everybody right now is going through their 2020 budget. We're looking at about revenues of about $46.58 million versus expenditures of about $46.48 million. It's going to leave us about $100,000 to the net good, which gets us at about 11.13% of our fund balance, which meets the expectations that we have as a Board of Commissioners having between 8 and 12% fund balance. But let me indicate the fact is with the amount of budget cuts that we've seen in the 2020 budget from the state, which was accounted about $1 million, we had to be pretty creative in terms of, we were about a $1.5 million gap at one point. But kudos to our administration, to our department heads for getting us where we need to be. So we're in the positive. However, I will say there's about 5.36 units or positions that actually were unfunded this year in order to get us where we needed to be. I will say if those budget cuts don't actually happen next year or they continue, that we may have some more substantial cuts next year. So let's hope not. Let's hope we can get back on track. Real quickly, one of the areas that I cover, I'm on a Southwest Michigan Behavioral Health Substance Abuse Council, which is a region of about 8 counties within West Michigan. And just some interesting statistics, which actually some good statistics I can produce tonight. Calhoun County seen from 2017 to 18 saw about a 2.5% reduction in the reduction in volume of opioid units in Calhoun County, which is a good thing. We have about 9 million opioid units in Calhoun County still, which is a significant amount. But yeah, interesting enough, we still have 32% of residences in Calhoun County that have at least one opioid med, which actually equals about 176 opioid medications per household. So we still got a lot of work to do, but what I will tell you, it's interesting about it is most what you see with all of the media attention, with all of the money it's been putting into the issue, the problem, we actually seen some counties in the West, in that region, actually go up in percentage versus go down. So we're heading in the right trend. We've got a lot of work to do, certainly, but hopefully that trend will continue. Also, too, congratulations, certainly on behalf of Calhoun County, but also with the City of Albion, on the Michigan Department of Transportation awarding of the State Transportation Economic Fund grant, which will support 35 new city jobs in the City of Albion. It's about $340,000 we'll be able to leverage and will allow the City of Albion and Calhoun County to reconstruct North Clark 29-mile road between East North Street and B Drive North, which is a good news. Certainly any time any roads are fixed are a good thing. However, I will say to the young lady that was talking about the bridge on Albion Street, you're exactly right, it's bad. It's terrible, it's a failed bridge. It's in bad shape, but the problem that we have is, and I'll talk about that as we move forward because, again, it kind of goes to the central unit here. And also, too, as somebody who is an advocate for senior citizens, Certainly, I chair the Senior Millage Allocation Committee in Calhoun County. I'm also on the Fork Senior Center Board of Directors as well. Anything that we can do certainly to provide opportunities for seniors to continue to be healthy, active, that's what we want to do. So again, I don't typically advocate for many things. I try to be very neutral on things, but I will say that we have a very aged population, certainly in the city of Albion, and on the east side of Calhoun County in general. Anytime that we can do anything to get our seniors out and get them active is a good thing in our community. So I'll just make that comment. My monthly newsletter, most of you folks do receive that by email. If you don't get it by email, contact me. It's a great resource to know what's going on around the 7th District. You talk about accountability and transparency. The young lady that was there that talked about that, absolutely, she's not gone, but it's really true. That's part of my message is accountability and transparency, and I think it's important that you want your elected officials to, you want to know what's going on, not only if it's a Calhoun County or wherever it's at. So again, my newsletter does that. Hard copies will be available at the Albion District Library tomorrow morning as well. Page 4, even though this, folks, doesn't necessarily apply to the city of Albion, but I'm going to segue that in. Local Policy 509, which is our local road share policy with our townships. Basically, previously, there was a 70-30 split between the township paying 70% for local roads, Calhoun County pays 30%. Well, about 2 years ago, I was told by many, many people 2 years ago, Gary, you don't ever think about getting back to 50-50. It's never going to happen. It's not worth the effort. We can't do it. You'll never win the battle. It's over, right? Well, I'm here to report this evening that we were successful in doing it after 2 years of advocating and pushing for this. Our policy is now back to 50-50 again. So we're actually going to give townships the opportunity to succeed no matter how big or how small you are, and it doesn't take a millage for them to be able to do that. But again, I think what's interesting about it is I proposed this policy change in August of 2019 to the administration and to my fellow colleagues, and actually we got it done November 21st. So it's a positive thing, and the reason why I say that is, like I said, I was told it wasn't worth the effort. It's too hard. You're not going to be able to do that anymore. Well, as I've always said, like everything else, if it's a positive thing for my constituents, it's well worth the effort to work for it. So 2 years in the making, never gave up the hope and kept pushing to get there. And again, maybe this doesn't affect the city of Albion, but I want to say that, as you most folks know, I've been proposing the road plan change. You know, I've been on Channel 3, I've been all over the place giving cards out for people to advocate and talk about that. But when you talk about that bridge right there, currently right now on how the state funds roads, bridges, and whatnot in the state of Michigan, Albion, that bridge gets put on a list, and over the next 4 years, if it's potentially identified as a funding opportunity, you may get that bridge done. But again, that's 2019 to 2023. Does that bridge really have 4 more years on it? No. Again, so what you're going to find on my newsletter this month is I actually included the card. You guys know, many of you seen the card that I pointed out there. Call your representatives, call your governor, call the people. You talk about people at the state level. You got to change the funding mechanism that we currently have. Right now we have, sorry about your luck, Albion, you know, that money that was going to go to road funding this year was going to go to 4 bridge projects in the state of Michigan. And guess what? None of them were in Albion. Mm-hmm. That Albion bridge, which is out on Albion Street, is bad shape. I can tell you that. It is bad. You walk underneath that bridge and you don't even know how it withstands some of the heavy traffic that it has. So what I will say is, take the opportunity, get my newsletter, get the card, and advocate like crazy and push. Because again, it might not happen tomorrow, but that 509 policy that I talked about tonight was 2 years in the making, and I worked every day for it because I'm not going to give up the opportunity to make it better for our constituents. So if it means our constituents and our townships, we're there. We're actually a little bit better. But my road plan helps everybody collectively. The city of Albion, as I've indicated before, $1.3 million more a year for the city of Albion. And yet I don't understand why we have nobody, not one legislator, that'll touch it with a 10-foot pole. And it's sad because meanwhile, while they're all just sitting up there, whatever they're doing, that bridge you're talking about continues to get worse every day. So hopefully they can quit with the talking and actually get a sound plan in place that gets the money where it needs to be and get you guys the opportunity to get that bridge fixed. It's important. Or do we wait until that bridge falls in when somebody drives over it and unfortunately somebody has to take one for the team and maybe perishes in that opportunity. So again, we can't do that anymore. So it's got to change. So what I would continue to do, many of you folks, if you haven't got the card, I've got cards tonight, talk to your representative. Call them and ask them questions. And I've got little things on, I've got a little thing right on here. You can ask them the very thing that I'm talking about, my road plan. And ask them why they're scared of it. What is there to be fearful of? if we're here to help our constituents like we're all here to do, this should be easy. This is a simple one for us. So, again, I'm going to continue the fight, folks, because it may be 2 years from now, but I'm going to tell you, we're going to continue to fight there and get it where it needs to be. All right, enough with that. Page 5 on my newsletter, I also talk about financial health indicators in 2018 for not only Calhoun County, but for our townships and for the city of Albion, as a matter of fact. We talk about, and this comes from the Michigan Department of Treasury. You can get online on the Department of Treasury and kind of see how healthy is your city, how healthy is your township you live in, how healthy is your village you live in, and how healthy is Calhoun County. So in page 5, I just kind of detail out all the data that gives you debt health, pension health, property tax health, all of the things that are important to health of your particular constituents or municipality. So on page 6, one of the things I want to point out too is I also do rankings. I'm big on data. Most of you guys know, if you guys see my newsletters every month, I'm big on data because I believe data is how you make decisions. It really is. So with that being said, interesting enough, I would like to point out to the city of Albion some very positive things that you see this. From 2017 to 18, out of 245 cities in the state of Michigan, Albion ranks 3rd in terms of pension health. Now what that means is you guys are doing a really, really good job in terms of managing your pension and the health of your pensions. That's a good thing, because I can tell you there's a lot of cities and there's a lot of people here in the state of Michigan don't do a very good job of that. So kudos to the city of Albion for doing a good job. It tells you you've done a nice job with that. Also too, debt health. We talk about debt health, the amount of debt that a municipality or a county has. Again, you guys rank 23rd out of 274 cities. That's very good. That's very good. So you've done a nice job of really managing your debt health as well. Conversely, if you look at Calhoun County, we're 76th of 83. So you know that there's health. And again, most people would say, why do you want this? Why do you want to see that data? What does it matter? It does matter, because it gives me opportunities where I know we need to work on things. So you guys have done a nice job in terms of overall governmental-wise of doing a nice job in terms of your debt health and your pension health. Just information for you to take a look at. So when we talk about accountability and transparency, I think that's the kind of information that many of our citizens don't know about and they should know about. They're entitled to have that information to take a look at, and then you can draw your own conclusions from it. So with that being said, hope I didn't take too long this evening, but as you can see, I'm very passionate about a lot of subjects that are going on, but really I think it's important for us to continue the fight. Let's not give up the opportunities to continue the fight and make our legislators and our governor accountable. Again, this is not about parties or anything. This is just about making sure that we do something that's the benefit of our citizens, because for someone to have to come across a bridge to drive down a city street right now that you can't drive down anymore because the potholes are so big, I don't buy the whole, I don't know what to tell you, sorry about your luck. We got to do something better than that. So with that being said, hope you guys enjoy your evening, and certainly we'll see you on the 16th, and I'm sure I'll see you around from time to time here in Albion. So anybody have any questions for me this evening? If not, it is always a pleasure to be with you folks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
City Manager's Report.
Your Honor, members of council, you received the city manager's report from November 27th. I outlined for you some meetings of interest that I attended over the past 2 weeks. The fiscal year 2020 budget preparation. Tonight we held the public hearing on the budget. The budget will be back on the agenda for the December 16th meeting for council to consider adopting the budget for the upcoming year. I provided you with an update on the Albion Community Gardens property assessment, and my understanding is they should have gone before the Michigan Tax Tribunal today, so we should hear fairly soon as to what the outcome of that hearing was. And as soon as I hear any information, I will provide that to you. The Irwin Avenue Reconstruction Project, I provided you with an update on that. As you can see from driving down that road, the leveling course, asphalt course was installed. The concrete work that needs to be done as far as driveway approaches, sidewalk replacement or gapping is going to be done in the spring because the weather is getting too cold for us to do concrete work at this point. But the concrete work will be done in the spring. The wear course for that portion of Irwin Avenue will be done at the same time that the wear course is installed for the rest of the Irwin Avenue project, sometime before July 1st. The BidNet Mitten Purchasing Group membership will be on the December 16th meeting agenda for council's consideration. That is for us to join the Mitten Purchasing Group so that we can utilize their web-based software for our purchasing and bidding processes. And that's all I have for tonight, Your Honor.
Okay. Council members' comments. Councilwoman Lawler.
Thank you, Mayor. I actually have two comments. One was about the bus stops. I had talked to one of the people in my precinct about the bus stops. I'm glad she came today and put some stuff out there. But there is a problem. These kids are at these bus stops and they're not in lighted areas. Kids on my street, I have saw them take their flashlight with them to get to the bus stop. And sex trafficking is real, so we have to watch our children. And there was a comment made by some people from the Marshall Public School Board about having little stations set up in certain areas, but it really needs to be addressed. So if anyone that's coming into our town to pick up our kids and transport them wherever school they go to, we do need help with lighted areas. So I'm calling on specific people that I know that do have a presence inside the city of Albion, which is Concord Schools, Springport, Homer. I'm asking for the city of Albion if we can, Marshall Public Schools, and Dean Transportation. So if any of those folks are watching and they can hear me in the sound of my voice, if they could contact me and try to set up something so that these kids are safe. I was riding down Dalrymple Street this morning, and right there by the church parking lot, I didn't see the kids until I got right there by the stop sign. So it's really serious about the bus stops. The second thing, I just want to say that I had witnessed a mental health issue. There's some kids in my precinct that are in foster care, and I guess he was having an issue with his mom, and I heard him say he wished he was in his grave. That kind of bothered me to a certain degree, because the kid was only like 8 years old. So whatever he is going through, somebody need to address it, with whether it's the foster care people or the foster care caseworkers, anyone that has something to do, an organization or anything that has to do with kids. Talk to these kids, take them in a secluded area, with a couple people there, but you can get more out of a child if you don't expose them to a big old crowd. I truly believe that. So if even the school principal, which he loves, I hear him say all the time, his babies, if he is watching, anybody that's watching, try to talk to some of these kids that are in foster care, or they may not even be in foster care, but they may be having problems at home. So that was just an issue that I heard the young man say, and it was very disturbing. So mental health issues is real in Albion. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilwoman Reed.
About the Albion Street Bridge, about 3 years ago, I invited some of the lawmakers down. Mr. Knopf, he was in the Senate then. Mr. Knopf, Gary came down, Greg Moore came down, I think it was Dr. Bison, and we went to the bridge, and we went down under the bridge, and we looked, yeah, it's a mess down in there. We looked up under there at how it's rusting out and everything, and so I made it very well known up in Lansing that that bridge needed something done about it. But so far, they keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and so I'm like Gary said, write your Congress people and let them know that that needs to be done. And when they did, when consumers did the lighting down there, when they were working down there was it last year? I went and I talked to them about it, and they said nothing they could do until the state made a move on it. So the state is really the one that's responsible for that bridge there, and it is a mess. All that cement is falling off the side. And I was telling them, with the more traffic that we get going up and down through there to the park and around other places, to the senior center, it really needs to be fixed. So write to Congress people and let them know, because they're aware of what's wrong with it.
If you could, City Manager, if you could get an update from Ms. Snyder on the grant application and what the status is on that, she can either come in and address the council, or if you include it in your report, that's up to you. I know the city has applied for a grant to have that bridge fixed. We'll find out what the status is. Councilwoman Clark.
I wanted to make an announcement that tomorrow at Pastor Amos Church on Superior Street, we, Eric and I, will be meeting to discuss housing assistance for people that have low income that need repairs, what funding is available, and especially for any of the senior citizens to come, and how they can apply for it. We'll also be discussing getting assistance for people that would like to own housing and buy a house, and credit counseling and things to that nature. So it's one lady from Battle Creek from Neighborhood Inc. is coming in. She's the funder. She's one of the funders for our area, that the money is available for you to fix your homes if they need repair for the low income. And then he will be there as a representation for the bank and the credit counseling and the different things that are available. So even if you can afford to fix your own house, if you know anybody, please send them. And it starts at 6 o'clock.
What's the date?
Tomorrow. The churches were made aware of it, and they were supposed to distribute flyers to the membership.
Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple of quick notes I would like to throw out. Last night on Adams Street, where I live, we had an incident. A young lady ran a pickup truck through a telephone pole. The truck actually was supporting the pole from falling by the end of the accident. Luckily enough, the young lady seemed physically okay as they took her away in the ambulance. All that being said, I wanted to thank ADPS and the ambulance service. They were there in less than 5 minutes after the call was made. So kudos to them for their quick action. I went to bed at midnight last night with a pickup truck supporting a telephone pole on the side of my street. I got up at 7 o'clock this morning. There was nothing to see. It was all done. It was all gone. There was a new pole installed. All the wires were rehung. The truck was gone like it never happened. So to anyone who was involved in the rescue of the young lady and the cleanup and repair of the thing last night, thank you very much for the work that you did overnight. Didn't even wake anybody up that I heard. And lastly, on the 13th of December, 7 p.m. At St. James Episcopal Church in the community hall, we will be having a 3rd Precinct town hall meeting to discuss what happened at this meeting and what may happen at the next meeting as far as the packet may be concerned, what I may be able to disseminate. But I want to do what I can to keep the people of our precinct involved in what's happening on the city council and to have their voice heard as to the items that are coming up on the council. So that'll be 7 p.m. Friday, December 13th. All citizens in Albion are welcome. It will be a third precinct meeting. Thank you.
Any other comments by council members? Okay. Couple quick comments. The water department employee, his first name was Jay, he asked a question. He described it as a slush fund. I think he's referring to the general fund reserve balance. Okay. He asked what the percentage was currently, and I believe currently it's a little over 30%, and it's projected to end up around that at the end of 2019.
I thought the finance director said during our budget work session it would be closer to 26%.
You're right. Yeah, you are correct. Yep, 26. And the state rule of thumb is approximately 15%, 15, 20.
15 to 20%.
Yeah, so we're above that, but that's good. And then there was a question by, I believe it was Mr. Dufflin, Dale Dufflin, on the Sidewalk Fund, in comments that it's empty, there's no money in there. And if you would please get back to him with his contact information, and in fact, let council know too, I don't believe that fund is empty.
No, I want to say there's a little over $400,000 in that fund.
That's the number that comes to mind, but I'd like you to just let Mr. Dufflin know what the number is, because it's not empty.
It's not empty.
No. Okay. Let's see here. What else? I guess that's about it. Okay. May I have a motion to excuse absent council members? Should be. Okay, support. And the only absent council member is Councilmember Williamson, so all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Okay. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Adjourn.
Please get your signature.
Yes, I want to make sure I give you back everything I'm supposed to give you back.
I think
Something
that's the only
with
thing I have.
wasn't there a license or something on the